You're going to disappoint people. You're going to please people just by being who you authentically are.
Trying to break out of that because it isn't a lifestyle. It's a rut. It's a contract that should never have been signed.
I have a very different attitude about my high achieverness than I did before. I don't try to prove it anymore. I know I'm good at what I do. And if you don't like it, that's on you. Welcome back to Unapologetic Rabble-Rousers. I'm DocShellie.
And I'm Carla Lewis. Okay. Let's just keep it going. Folks, you do not have to prove that you're worth it.
No, siree.
This whole addiction, this is an addiction. Really, that's what we've been addressing.
Mm-hmm.
This addiction to proving that you're valuable, that you're worth it, that you should be kept around, that you're likable, all of that crap. Proving it as opposed to just being. So at some point, it's like you've made this deal.
A deal with the devil.
Yeah, really. If you get to do it, and there's this unconscious deal. All right. If I perform well enough, I'll be safe. If I achieve enough, I'll be respected. All of that kind of crap. This
People
is
will
the
like
stuff.
Me.
I know. So it becomes kind of a lifestyle.
Indeed.
And then what we're trying to do is we are trying to break out of that because it isn't a lifestyle. It's a rut. It's a contract that should never have been signed. So let's dig into this, Michelle.
Yeah. There's so many places we could go here. I think as we're prepping for this, the conversation around high achievers, right? High achievers are often high provers. And you mentioned like proving yourself.
Okay.
High achievers, it's really funny. I think there's two categories of high achievers that I experience and that I have been. Early on in my career, high achiever, always proving myself, always proving myself, always proving myself. High achiever now, just what I do. Take it or leave it. I don't give a shit. I have a very different attitude about my high achieverness than I did before. I don't try to prove it anymore. I know I'm good at what I do. And if you don't like it, that's on you.
I want to weigh in on that because you talked about before and now. And before, for both of us, even with a little generational difference, proving oneself, especially in the business setting. So I'm going to focus on that for a bit. That's what had to happen. I mean, it was.
Did it though?
Okay.
When I think about, I wasn't there, so I don't know how you went about proving yourself. I know how I went about establishing myself and proving myself. I do it very differently now than I did back then.
Oh, well, amen to that. And so do I. Yeah.
Because now I know I'm good at what I do. Then I felt like I think I'm good at what I do, but nobody's telling me that. So I need to keep, I just need to keep proving myself. And sometimes it was proving myself, and not in the way that I see people doing it, like putting other people down, putting myself above other people. I was still very much a team player, but I made sure people knew what I did. I made sure that I got credit for the work that I was doing. And sometimes that meant standing up in front of the room, flapping my arms, going, look at me, look at me, look at me. I did that. Not quite that blatantly, but you know what I mean.
I know,
and
but
now,
it paints a fun picture.
And now I'm much more quiet about it. I know I'm good at what I do. I know the worth that I bring. I know the impact that I have. I do not need that validation. I don't need somebody else going, ooh, look at Shelly. She's so good. I don't need that anymore. Early on in my career, I sought that a lot. And
Okay.
so I did extra. I did more than I ever needed to do to continue to prove my worth, which then connected to my overfunctioning. Hey, give it to Shelly. She'll do it. Shelly's the hypo. She'll do it. Give it to Shelly. Give it to Shelly. Give, give, give. And I just took it all on and then I burnt myself out. So that contributed to my overfunctioning.
I I understand. And I think there may have been, because there's about 20 years difference. So when I speak about needing to prove, it was about, breaking in where a woman hadn't been. And so there was a notion of being able to be at least even acknowledged and being able to step in and deliver from a place of quality and integrity and all of that. But I do know that I went into a cycle where it was about, yeah, I can do that and I can do more and I can do, and I can, and I can, and I can. And it
And
kept coming
that's the
to
piece
me.
that we didn't need to take on.
That's the
That's
piece.
the piece.
Right.
Anywhere you have to go in and be like, here's what I can do. But I don't consider that proving yourself.
Mhm.
That's just here's how I can contribute. Here's how I can make an impact versus I have to prove that I am worthy of this position that I was already granted because I'm freaking qualified for it.
Yep. Two
I
different things.
interviewed, I got the
Mhm.
job, and now all of a sudden I think, "Oh my God, I have to prove myself." No, you proved yourself before you walked in the damn door.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to take on all this extra stuff just to show I belong here. That's what I meant by did you?
Yes.
That's the element. All that other crap probably didn't need to do any of that.
I accept your comments. I
But we didn't
accept
know that. Like, who the hell knew that back then?
back
I would
then.
argue there are still people today that don't know that.
I think you're right. And it's like,
Yeah.
wake up, people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
I
the,
go ahead.
please.
No, you go.
Oh no.
Oh no.
After you.
I think that being the high prover, it almost becomes the air that you breathe. We don't know what to do
Mm,
when I stop taking on all this other stuff.
okay.
I don't know what to do when I'm not being uber productive.
Is it productive?
I think it is, right? Because I'm doing it. I'm doing things.
Okay.
But we don't, because we're just going to keep on taking more and more and more because we're going to continue to prove ourselves because that has become our identity. Output is my identity.
Okay.
I'm
All
going to
right.
crank the work out for you to prove that you hired the right person, to prove that I belong here. And I
It's a
think this,
volume game.
yeah, exactly. And I think if we stop doing that, then the question is, who am I?
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important to recognize that competence is a skill. Your worth is not a skill. And we
That's
often equate the two.
that's big. That's big.
Yeah.
How do we separate those two so that we keep them in the right perspective?
I think the difference is thinking about where you're performing excellence versus embodying your worth.
Ooh, boom. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about embodying your worth.
Oh, I think
Wow.
if we think about where proving shows up or where it hides,
Okay.
it's not just in our career. That's an easy jump, right? If you have a job, you've probably tried to prove yourself. But I think it also shows up in some of the other things that we've talked about in over explaining ourselves. I've made a decision, but now I'm going to explain it to you, and then I'm going to explain it to you again, and I'm going to explain it to you again. And if a man's doing that, we call that mansplaining.
Yes, we do. It's also up there with when I ask you the time, I don't need you to tell me how to build the
Don't tell me
watch.
how the whole damn watch was built, right?
That's right.
Saying yes to prove that you're reliable. How many times do people just say yes to things they really don't want to do? Overfunctioning in relationships. We've talked about that in the past. I can't possibly meet anyone for dinner ever because I have to be home to prepare dinner for my husband,
Oh my goodness, that was a couple episodes back.
right? He doesn't care if you go out to dinner with your friends. He would welcome it. But no, we can't do that. So just that overfunctioning in relationships,
Okay.
parenting. I'm not a parent, but a parent like you are being graded on how well you're doing it.
And against whose standards
Right.
and who's doing the grading, right?
Exactly. And I think it's important to recognize that you're not just doing the thing, you're actually demonstrating something. And so when we're demonstrating our over explaining, we're demonstrating our over functioning, that becomes part of how we embody our worth. And it shouldn't be how we embody our worth. I shouldn't only be worthy because I'm doing something for someone else. I shouldn't only be worthy because I overfunction in a relationship and I think I'm protecting the people around me.
Okay.
My worth doesn't come through those things. I am a worthy human being because I have good values, I have good morals, I have integrity, and my words and actions are worthy of respect. Therefore, I am worthy. I'm not, and it doesn't add to my worthiness because I can over explain shit. It doesn't add to my worthiness because I can over function in relationships. It doesn't add to my worthiness that I'm a great problem solver.
So, if what we're trying to do then is find a measure of worth, that in order for me is generic here, I'm generalizing, but if in order for me to be able to measure my worth, if it's not in the doing, if it's not in the saying yes and always being available and doing all of the things that you just spoke of, volumes of explanations, being just over delivering, what is it then that stands between me and all that doing and being able to recognize that I do have that worth? How do I measure it?
Why do you have to measure it? I will ask the converse question. If I don't over explain, if I don't over function, if I don't manage everybody else's feelings and emotions, does that now mean I'm unworthy?
Take that in.
If I've disappointed somebody, all of a sudden I'm an unworthy human being? I think not. Let me be clear. The answer is no. But if we think we have to measure our worth and we're measuring it by the things that we do,
Mm-hmm.
that we overfunction on, if I stop overfunctioning, that must mean I'm not worthy.
Wow. Now take that in. So, overfunctioning is the foundation for my worth. I'm not declaring that this is the truth. I'm saying if I'm caught up in that equation, but if I'm caught up in that hamster wheel, then what is it that I need to do in order to get out of that? What is it that I do to break the cycle? What is it that I can do to get out of this? I need to prove it and accept that I have worth because I have breath.
You're a human being. You're worthy. That full stop. It's nothing more than that. You're going to disappoint people. You're going to please people just by being who you authentically are. People are going to be disappointed. People are going to like you. People are going to not like you. It doesn't matter. You are worthy. Simple as that. And if you can't lean into that, then you're probably going to continue to overfunction, because overfunctioning becomes your currency. That's how you belong. That's how you feel like you fit in. But if your belonging depends on your performance, it's entirely conditional. It's no way to live. If you're exhausting yourself by overfunctioning, because I promise you, if you are overfunctioning, it is exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we have to overfunction. Sometimes there are life situations that require us to overfunction and do the things that we don't really want to do. We got to do them anyway. I would argue that you've got to have some sort of backup plan so that you don't do them infinitely, forever and ever and ever. But the more we overfunction, the more exhausted we get. Overfunctioning is conditional. If we stop overfunctioning, people may or may not like it. That's our last episode. Let them be disappointed that you have stopped serving them. Let them be disappointed that you are no longer their crutch, that you are giving them a learning opportunity.
Bam.
But really, if you are exhausting yourself to earn your worth, you are exhausting yourself because you're overperforming, because your worth depends on your performance. That worth really isn't yours. It's everyone else's. It's in their hands. It's not in yours.
It's time to reclaim it.
This question is coming into my brain. Who would you be if you trusted that you were already enough? Who would you be if you trusted that in your current natural state of being, you are worthy?
With that, I'm Carla Lewis.
I'm DocShellie. We'll see you next time. Who would you be if you trusted that you were already enough? Who would you be if you trusted that in your current natural state of being, you are worthy? I am a worthy human being because I have good values, I have good morals, I have integrity, and my words and actions are worthy of respect. Therefore, I am worthy. Simple as that.